Welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi, Bava Metzia Daf 114 Amud B. Minayin va'alm shelo yisrom. Rabba Ba'avu now asks Elijah another question. From where is it derived that with regard to a naked person that he may not separate teruma? Alm shelo yisrom. It's forbidden for an unclothed person to separate teruma as he cannot recite the blessing. If he did so, his separation is valid, and that's in the Bava Metzia Daf. Just adjust the camera a little bit. Here's the Rhyme Hilchot Teruma 4:4. He replied, as it is written, and he sees no unseemly thing in you, Deuteronomy 23:15. This verse indicates that one may not recite any word of sanctity, including the blessing upon separating teruma, in front of one who is naked. The Amora proceeded to ask Elijah a different question and said to him, is it not the master priest? What does that mean? Love Kohen Humah. Some commentaries point out that this is not at all clear that Elijah is a priest, as the Torah is silent with regard to origins. It simply states Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the settlers of Gilead in 1 Kings 17:1, which does not even prove that he came from Gilead, but merely that this was his place of residence in Tosfot. There are many conflicting statements in the Midrash with regard to the identity of Elijah's tribe. Another question discussed in Tosfot is that if Elijah was a priest, how could he resurrect the child? See Kings 1 Kings 17:21, as this necessitated contact with the dead. The answer suggested by Tosfot is that since it was clear to Elijah that he would successfully resuscitate him, it was permitted for him to come into contact with the child due to the need to save a life. Some later commentaries offer a slightly different explanation. The child was still considered to be alive, since Elijah was certain that he would be resurrected, and that's from the Beis Aaron. Other commentaries suggest that the child was not deceased but dying. Talmud Rabbeinu Peretz. Alternatively, this was a special dispensation by divine command. He replied, as it is written, and he sees. What is the reason that the master is standing in a cemetery? Elijah said to him, has the master not studied the Mishnaic order of Taharot? As it is taught in a Braita, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says that the graves of Gentiles, Kavrehen shel Nachrim ein Matabin, according to Tosfot, Elijah's answer, in which he cites Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, does not reflect his true halachic opinion. In reality, Elijah believed that the graves of Gentiles imparted impurity to one who was under the same roof, but the reason why Elijah is permitted to enter the graveyard of the Gentiles had nothing to do with the manner in which the bodies were buried there. See Tosfot and the Mukhe Yosef for further elaboration. Other early commentators maintain that Elijah did not follow the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and ruled that Gentile graves do not impart impurity to one who is under the same roof, and that's the Rambam Sefer Yerim. And do not render one impure. So what's the footnote there? I haven't said that one yet. In graves of Gentiles. Gentile corpses impart impurity by contact and by carrying, but not by being under the same roof. This is the ruling of most early commentators opposed to Tosfot and the Rosh. Nevertheless, it is appropriate for a priest to be stringent and avoid walking on the graves of Gentiles. Ram Sefer Tahara, Hilchot Tumas Meis, 113, Shulchan Aruch, Yoredeah 372:2, and in the comment of as it stated, and you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture are man, Ezekiel 34:31, which teaches that you are the Jewish people called man, but the Gentiles are not called man. So what's the fun there? Ein Nachrim Keruin Odom. The Ramban in Tractate Yevamot 61a explains at length that this does not mean that Gentiles are not called man at all, as certain verses clearly refer to Gentiles as men. Rather, since in this context the word man is used in reference to Jews alone, apparently the term applies only to Jews with regard to the portion of halacha in the Torah. Rabbeinu Tam demonstrates there is a difference between the term man Adam, which includes only Jews. Jews in halachic context, and the term the man Ha'adam applies to all people, Gentile and Jew alike. Either way, everyone agrees that the discussion about the term man here is a technical one, and one in the context of halacha, and is not an abstract discussion about the essence of what defines a man. Since the Torah states with regard to ritual impurity imparted in a tent, if a man dies in a tent, Numbers 19:14, evidently impurity imparted by a tent does not apply to Gentiles. Rabba Ba'avu said to him, how could I be familiar with that Braita? If I cannot be proficient in the more commonly studied four orders of the Mishnah, how can I be knowledgeable in all six? Bava Bashita, the Maharsha explains that Rabba Ba'avu means the following. It is evident from my question about a debtor that I am not even proficient in the fourth order Nezikin. How then can you expect me to know the sixth order Taharat? Rashi's opinion is that the four orders that Rabba Ba'avu had in mind are Moed, Nezikin, Nashim, and Kadoshim. It would seem that this choice is based on the fact that the Babylonian Talmud includes only these four types in their entirety. Others claim that the four orders are the first ones, Zerai, Moed, Nashim, and Nezikin, which apply nowadays. The other two, Kadoshim and Taharat, which were applicable only during the times of the temple, were not studied as much then. According to Tosfot, the sages were proficient in six orders of the Mishnah themselves, but they were not expert in all the additional brighter that pertain to each order. Elijah said to him, why are you not learning them all? Rabba Ba'avu said to him, the matter of a livelihood is pressing for me, and I am therefore unable to study properly. Elijah led him and brought him into the Garden of Eden. What does that mean? Ayalei the Gan Eden. According to some commentaries, this story illustrates a great reward in store for the righteous, as even the sight odor of the leaves of the Garden of Eden was precious and valuable. That's in the Torah Chaim. Other commentators have explained the entire episode homiletically. Elijah showed Rabba Ba'avu his future portion in the world to come, so that he should not suffer from his present hardships. The trees of the Garden of Eden represent the mitzvot he performed, along the lines of the statement, one consumes the profit of his good deeds in this world, and the principle remains intact for him in the world to come. The voice he heard was hinting to him that even the smallest portion of such profit was symbolized by its leaves in the according to the verse, and whose leaf does not wither. In Psalms 1:3, it's better for the righteous to leave for the world to come. Nevertheless, the odor of the food, which symbolizes the positive impact of his good deeds upon others and is also a great gift, represents the reward granted in this world. Minchas Aboka in Eliyahu. And said to him, remove your cloak, gather up and take some of these leaves lying around. Rabba Ba'avu gathered them up and took them. When he was exiting, he heard a voice that declared, who else consumes his world to come like Rabba Ba'avu, who takes his merit of the next world for his use in the present one? He spread out his cloak and threw away the leaves. Even so, when he brought his cloak back, he discovered that the cloak had absorbed such a good scent from those leaves that he sold it for 12,000 dinars. Since he knew that this was taken from his portion in the world to come, he did not want to benefit from it himself, and therefore divided the sum among his son-in-law. The sages taught with regard to the verse, if he be a poor man, you shall not sleep with his collateral, Deuteronomy 24:12. But if he is wealthy, one may lie down. So what does that mean? Ha'aser zachev. According to the Sifri, the prohibition includes a wealthy person's wealth, but one who treats a poor person unfairly is punished more severely. According to the Rosh and the Talmud Rebbeinu Peretz, the wealthy person mentioned in the Sifri is a landowner who acquires his everyday tools since he possesses only a few. Conversely, the wealthy person referred to by the Gemara is one who owns extensive properties and does not need to spend all his time tending to his fields. We'll ask, what is the Tana saying? Rav Sheshet said that this is what he is saying. And if he be a poor man, you shall not sleep while his collateral is with you. Rather, you must restore it to him before the sun sets. But if he is a wealthy man, you may lie down while his collateral is with you. When a creditor takes an item as collateral that the debtor requires for his basic needs, the creditor must return it to him during the time that the debtor requires it for use. If the debtor does not need the item, the creditor is not obligated to give it back. Halacha applies to one who seized collateral at the time of the loan. But if the creditor took the collateral when he granted the loan, he does not have to return it. And that's in the Ram Sefer Mishpatim, Hilchot Ma'av 3.5, Shulchan Aruch HaMizbah 9.7.16. The sages taught, one who lends money to another is not permitted to take collateral from him, and is not obligated to return it to him, and transgresses all of these labels, shemot of prohibitions, shemos. The word shemot is used here and in other places of the Talmud signifies something slightly different from its literal meaning. I named here Shem, the singular form, means a concept or an issue. The meaning of this verse is unclear, and the Gemara asked, what is the Tana saying? Rav Sheshet said, this is what he is saying. One who lends money to another is not permitted to take collateral from him, and if he did take collateral from him, he is obligated to return it to him. As for the clause, and he transgresses all of these labels of prohibitions, is referring to the last clause, i.e. the case implicit in the Braita, where the creditor took collateral from the debtor and not return it, and the Braita explains that such a person violates all of the Torah prohibitions that apply to this situation. Bava said, this is what the Tana is saying. One who lends money to another is not permitted to take collateral from him, and if he did take collateral from him, he's obligated to return it to him. In what case is the statement said? It's referring to where he took collateral from him when it was not at the time of the loan, but rather as a means of ensuring payment. But if he took collateral from him at the time of the loan, in which case the collateral serves as a guarantee of the loan, he's not obligated to return it to him. According to this interpretation, the statement and transgress of all of these labels of prohibitions is referring to the first clause of the Braita, concerning the prohibition against taking collateral. Tani Rav Sevi Kamei Durava. With regard to the verse, and if you take collateral from your neighbor's garment, and you shall restore it to him until the sun goes down, Exodus 22:25, this is referring to a garment worn at night, and teaches that the garment is returned during the day. And with regard to the verse, you shall restore to him the collateral when the sun goes down, Deuteronomy 24:13, this is referring to a garment worn during the day. I was said to him, this statement is puzzling. As with regard to a garment worn in the day, why do I need it at night? And as for a garment worn at night, why do I need it in the day? What purpose is served by giving back the garments at such times? Amalei Ismaye. Rav Zevi said to him, do you think this Braita is so corrupt that I should erase it? So what's a footnote? Ismaye, I should erase it. The Amoraim who recited Mishnah and Braita were experts in these statements, and they would sit with the living libraries by reciting these quotations from memory before the sage. The sage would then elucidate and clarify the Braita and place them in context. Occasionally, when they encountered a text of a Braita that was corrupt, the sage would instruct the one who taught it not to repeat it anymore, as it was not considered definitive enough to use as a source of practical halacha. I no longer teach it. But I said to him, no, do not erase it. This is because this is what it is saying. With regard to the verse, and you shall restore it to him until when the sun goes down, this is referring to a garment worn during the day, which may be taken as collateral by night, but must be returned to the debtor for the day. With regard to the verse, you shall restore to him the collateral when the sun goes down, is referring to a garment worn at night, which may be taken as collateral by day. Rabbi Yochanan said, if he took collateral from him, returned it, and then the debtor died, when a creditor takes an item as collateral that the debtor requires for his basic needs, the creditor must return it to him during the time the debtor requires it for use. If the debtor does not need the item, the creditor is not obligated to give it back. This halacha applies to one who seized collateral at the time of the loan. But if the creditor took collateral, does when he granted the loan, he does not have to return it. And that's what I'm saying from Mishpat Mehoramav Valova 3.5 Shulchan Aruch Shemishpat 97:16. The creditor may take collateral from the debtor's children, and is under no obligation to leave it with them. The Gemara raised an objection to this from a Braita. Rabbi Meir said, but since one takes collateral, why does he return it? The Gemara expresses surprise at this question. Why does he return it? The Mercer one states to return it. Rather, the question is as follows. Since he must return it, that's the end of the Omid. Thank you for listening, and wish you all the best. Bye.